Question 4. John owns and operates the End Zone Steakhouse. He would like to turn the operation over to his son Zeke, a graduate of Spartacus High School. Zeke, however, has no food service background. Zeke would like to prove that he can effectively operate the restaurant and that he would be good at controlling costs. Operating cost categories for the restaurant in terms of other expenses are as follows. Place an X in the controllable column and an X in the non-controllable column. All right, so controllable means that's something that we can control. Non-controllable, that's out of our control. So real estate tax, that is not something that we can control. We're going to get charged that. It's like death and taxes, right? Menu printing, that is something that we can control. We control how much we print of it, how often we do, how much we need to change it. So that would be controllable. Professional musicians, that's something that we can decide on. Interest on long-term debt, that's going to be non-controllable. Our charitable donations are controllable. We control that. Cleaning supplies, same thing. Flowers and decorations, yes, that's controllable. And then our licenses and permits, those are things that we really have no say in. Those will be non-controllable. All right, question 5. Shanna operates a lounge in an extremely popular downtown convention hotel. The hotel regularly operates around 80% occupancy mark, and its lounge, Luigi's, is often filled to capacity. On weeks when business is slower at the hotel is slower, Shanna attempts to build local sales by scheduling a variety of popular bands to play on stage. She must select one band to play on Saturday night, 6 weeks from now, when the hotel is not busy. She's kept records of the cost and sales volume of the last 4 bands she has booked. All right, so let's take a look here. We have Tiny and the Boys, Bill Folds, Lanois, and the Hoppers. Okay, so let's first calculate our cost percentage. All right, so if we look at our expense and we divide that by our lounge sales, we have a cost of 12.3% for Tiny and the Boys. Again, taking our expense, dividing it by our sales. And we can use that for our entire column here. And then let's look at our cost per guest served. Okay, so if we look at, here we go with our cost percentage. If we're just looking at cost percentage, Tiny and the Boys is at 12.3%. Okay, that's your lowest cost percentage. The Hoppers is at 19.5%, but let's look at our cost per guest served. All right, so we have our cost per guest served is 98 cents. Again, we're going to take our expense divided by the number of guests served. So when we look at this, if we look at our cost per guest served, the Hoppers is our best option there because although it was more expensive, it did bring in the most guests, and so our cost per guest served is a little bit less. All right, so then let's take a look and see, what if we charged a cover charge here? All right, let's say Shanna charged $5 per, okay, so based on these, for cost percentage, we're going to pick Tiny and the Boys. But if we look at our cost per guest served, we're at 95 cents for the Hoppers. Now, would you change the answer if you knew she charged a $5 cover charge to enter the lounge on the nights she has a band? All right, and the cover charge is separate from the lounge sales. So let's say we're charging $5 for our cover charge. Let's look and see what we would. All right, so if we take our number of guests served, and we did something wrong there. All right, we'll take our cover charge. We're going to multiply it by our number of guests served. Again, our cover charge multiplied by our number of guests served. So we look here and we see our in total cover charges, what we would bring in sales there. Now we would add that. Let's add our cover charges to our lounge sales. Again, we're taking our cover charges, we're adding those to our lounge sales. So we look here and we see if we were to, which band would we choose if we were charging cover charges? Okay, so based on the lounge sales that we have, along with the cover charges, it looks like our highest generating band would be Shaken Bill and the billfold, okay? So when we look at our total sales, with a cost percentage here, we're picking Tiny Bill and the Boys if we want our lowest cost percentage, but also we also want to take a look at our cost per guest served and what our lounge sales would be. So again, this Shaken Bill is going to be our best option. All right, question 6. Marjorie manages a 200-seat white tablecloth restaurant in an upscale neighborhood. Since her guests expect her tablecloths and napkins to be really white, she sends her linens to a local laundry service daily. The laundry service charges her by the piece. She wants to keep track of her laundry cost per guest to see if she can use the information to control her laundry costs better. Help her complete her 6-column cost per guest report. She's budgeted 60 cents per guest on average. All right, so let's take a look at what she's spending. Okay, so if we're going to take what we spent yesterday, we're going to add it to what we spent today. All right, and that is a formula we can use for the whole chart. So again, we're just adding each day to the next, and we're going to double check our numbers by adding all of this up, and those should match, right? Same thing with our guests served, okay? Now again, we're adding yesterday to today. And again, adding this up to just double check that our numbers are correct. All right, so our cost per guest. So we want to take a look here. So our cost today divided by our guest today. And we can use this formula for the whole chart. And then if we look to date, we're going to take our cost to date divided by our guest to date. So we take a look at these numbers. How is she doing on controlling her laundry costs? They are pretty consistent. There's a couple days where she's a little bit higher, but to date, she's under her goal. All right. Josiah operates a food service, the food service at Springdale Valley School System. He has just been informed by City Power, the electrical company in this area, that the rate per kilowatt hour for the school system kitchens will be rising from 0.085 per kilowatt hour to 0.092 per kilowatt hour beginning next academic year in September. Based on last year's bill, what was his kitchen's electricity usage? All right, so we look at his cost last year, and we know that we spent 0.085 per kilowatt hour. So we know we used 80,000 kilowatt hours. So again, we're taking our cost divided by what our rate was last year, and that's the 0.085. And again, we can use this formula for the whole chart. Okay, so we see how many kilowatt hours we use. Now, if we want to estimate what we're going to spend this year, we're going to take the kilowatt hours that we used, and we are going to multiply that times our cost. So again, that's what we used last year times our cost. Now, is this going to be exact? It's going to be pretty close, okay, because we're probably utilizing the same amount of power in each month, okay? When we think about our air conditioning and weather patterns and what we utilize things for. So this is a good estimate of how much we can see our electricity cost increase so that we can put that in our budget for next year, right? So assuming no operating changes, how much more next year will be spent? Okay, we see a difference of about $3,000, okay? And that was in a little less than a cent of, less than 1 cent of an increase, and that increased our bill by about $3,000, okay? So who are some of Josiah's best resources for discovering ways to limit our electricity usages in the kitchen? I would say his prep cooks, his cooks, his people who actually work in the kitchens. So ways to cut down costs would be making sure that all of our gaskets are repaired on our walk-in coolers and our refrigerators and things, so we're not leaking, we're not, the cold air stays in there and our compressors aren't overworking, okay? Keeping our lights off when we don't need them, making sure that our equipment is in proper working order. A lot of times when motors go out on equipment, they will draw so much power that you can actually blow breakers because they're the machine's trying to overcompensate and trying to, it draws more power so it'll actually work. Making sure that we are unplugging things when we're not using them, keeping doors closed, maintaining a proper temperature that's that's workable, but also make sure that is recoverable as well. So not setting our air conditioning to 65 every day, but maybe something more closer to like 75 or 78. Okay, but your staff should be able to give you ways that they think that they can conserve power, so that when we see an increase in our cost per kilowatt hour, that maybe we can make some adjustments so we don't spend as much. Maybe we can cut down the number of kilowatt hours again that we used.